Welcome back to the Andy's Researchers YouTube channel, the one-stop shop for Australian businesses looking to invest overseas. As always, I'm your host Grace, and along with my Andy's colleagues, we'll be diving into the world of international business with you today. On today's episode, our deep dive will be on Switzerland. As always, we're going to break it down into the important topics that you need to know. Starting with Taylah, she's going to be breaking down the effects globalisation has had on Switzerland. We're then going to pass it on to Jess, who'll be taking you through the economic and human development of Switzerland. Then, Tess is going to take you through the cultural background of Switzerland and give us a little comparison to us here in Australia. Lastly, we'll pass to Nadine, who's going to take us through the industries that Switzerland and Australia specialise in using David Ricardo's theory of comparative advantage. Before we get into the nitty-gritty, it's important to have the appropriate context and background into Switzerland. So what do we know? Switzerland, also known as the Confederato Helvetica, which translates to the Swiss Confederation, is located in the heart of the Europe continent. Switzerland's location at the centre of such a diverse landform has led to a diverse national culture of its own. Switzerland has 4 official languages: German, French, Italian, and Rhoato-Romanic. The official currency for Switzerland is the Swiss franc, as it is not a member of the European Union. Switzerland's capital city is Bern and dates back to the 12th century, with some of the most well-preserved medieval architecture around to date. Switzerland's political structure is federalist. Its structure is quite similar to that of Australia's, in that it is divided into 3 political levels. The first being federal, followed by cantonal, which is what we in Australia would recognise as a state, and lastly municipal, similar to our local level of government. The Federal Assembly, also called Parliament, consists of 2 chambers: the National Council, which represents the Swiss people, similar to our Australian House of Representatives, and the Council of States, which represents the 26 cantons, just as our Senate does our states. The federal government is also known as the Federal Council and consists of 7 members. Whilst there are strong similarities between the Australian and Swiss political systems, the same cannot be said for their legal systems. Switzerland's legal framework is that of civil law. The civil law system originated in Europe and is still widely used in many European countries. Civil law relies on written statutes and other legal codes that are constantly updated to establish all their legal procedures, punishments, and to establish what can and cannot be brought before the courts. Further, Swiss law is divided into public and private law. Switzerland enjoys a thriving, modern and liberal market economy, with low levels of unemployment, a highly trained labour force, and one of the world's highest per capita GDPs, ranking number 3 in the world this year. Switzerland's economic benefits come from a variety of highly developed service sectors, a strong manufacturing industry, and their pharmaceutical and chemical industry. Whilst not being part of the EU, Switzerland is a member of the United Nations and the European Free Trade Association, as well as sharing many close ties with the European Union countries. Now that we have a basic overview of Switzerland, we can jump into our business questions for today's video. Starting us off, we have Taylah, who will break down the effects globalisation has had on Switzerland.
Thanks, Grace. As you know, I'm Taylah from Andy's Researchers, here to talk to you about globalisation impacts on Switzerland. Switzerland is a country characterised by isolation, high technology, education, and is a very advanced society. Overall, Switzerland has been deemed the globalisation champion, with the highest globalisation gains in per capita income from 1990 to present. There are 2 indexes that suggest globalisation has thrived in Switzerland. The Globalisation Index and the KOF Globalisation Index consider economic, social and political aspects of the country and worldwide. The globalisation winner is determined by 3 steps: the production of Globalisation Index, studying the correlations between globalisation and economic development, and 3, determining the globalisation champion. The winner, being Switzerland, was recognised as being the country that was able to cumulatively achieve the largest gains in per capita gross domestic product from globalisation between 1990 and 2016. The KOF Globalisation Index rated Switzerland 91.17 out of 100, which was the highest in the world. The biggest positive effect globalisation has had is the Swiss economy. The GDP per capita has increased by €1,910 per year between 1990 and 2016. Globalisation has had no negative impact on taxes and social spending. It has been seen to promote economic growth. Furthermore, the Swiss economy is characterised by economic internationalisation, supported by major firms having an integrated global vision. Thus, Switzerland is now one of the most highly integrated economies in the world due to their acceptance and preparation for the impacts of globalisation. On the social scale, they have had major benefits in the social field. The Globalisation Index in the social sector ranks Switzerland as number 1, with a score of 97.2. Alongside this, the unemployment rate has risen by 3.6%. Swiss systems are characterised by high foreign capital, high number of foreign managers, and a central importance of business education. For such a small country, Switzerland is recognised as being more sensitive and responsive to international openness compared to most European countries. The main negative globalisation has impacted in Switzerland is their political element. Ranking 11th in the world, however falling to 33rd in previous years, this is one area that is not thriving in the country. Some factors about this are when comparing the international embassies in each country, the membership of governmental organisations such as the World Bank, and the involvement in the United Nations Security Council missions. Switzerland are not large participators, and they are also known as a neutral country. Thus, their political systems are not internationally recognised and are open compared to their economic and social sides. Another factor to consider is globalisation has led to an increasing internationalisation of top management profiles, also claiming it is a country with globalised managerial elite. Although this benefits international workers, we have to consider if this could potentially mean there are lesser opportunities for CEO positions in their top companies, and is the influence of an international work base causing Switzerland to lose some of their culture and traditional roots due to globalisation. Overall, the Globalisation Report states industrialised countries are the biggest winners of globalisation, and this has proven to be the case here. Switzerland is the biggest winner of globalisation. I'd now like to pass on to Jess, who is going to talk to you about the analysis of economic and human development.
So thank you, Taylah. Hi everyone, my name is Jess and I'm a part of Andy's research team as well. Today I will be analysing the levels of both economic and human development in Switzerland and Australia. So let's start off with economic development. Economic development involves natural endowments, infrastructure, innovation and entrepreneurship, and also education in the country. So Switzerland is known for their good infrastructure such as their railways, highways and airports, as well as having a stable energy supply and water supply. Furthermore, they have good easy access to education, and they have a high level of investment towards research and development. Let's not forget they are known as the world's most innovative country. So how do we measure economic development? Economic development can be measured using the GNI, also known as the Gross National Income Per Capita. GNI measures the total amount of income received by residents of a nation, as well as comparing their standards of living across different population sizes. Another way to measure economic development is by using the PPP, the Purchasing Power of Parity. The purchasing power of parity is measured by adjusting the GNI against the purchasing power of a country. So this adjustment is then determined against the cost of living in the United States. So it is a more American biased concept. So the PPP for different countries is then adjusted up or down depending on whether the cost of living is lower or higher in relation to the US. So for Switzerland, their GNI score as of 2018 sits at US $83,580 per capita, and so they sit at the high income bracket. In addition, Switzerland has a high purchasing power, with the GNI per capita adjusted against PPP as of 2018 at US $69,220. This means the cost of living in Switzerland is relatively high. On the other hand, let's look at human development, which is defined by the UNDP Human Development Report as the enlargement of the range of people's choices. So the concept of human development argues that human beings are the means of all activities, and that development must be aimed at improving an individual's freedom, capabilities, and achievements. Hence, rather than focusing on just an individual's income level, human development studies other factors besides financial commodities that can contribute to an individual's standard of living. So an advocate of human development such as Amartya Sen argues that welfare should be based on an individual's capabilities, and these capabilities refer to the freedom of an individual has in relation to their choice of functioning or opportunities in order for them to achieve their desired standard of living. So the Human Development Index, HDI, is a tool developed by the United Nations to measure and rank a country's levels of social and economic development. It is based on three important measures, so life expectancy, literacy rates, and the GDP measured against purchasing power. As of 2017, Switzerland's HDI score sits at 0.944, coming in second place in the world, and the life expectancy is estimated to be at 83.5 years, with the mean years of schooling at 13.4 years. This shows that Switzerland is maintaining a high standard of living, with people living long and healthy lives and attaining a high level of education. So moving on to the analysis of Australia. Australia's GNI per capita as of 2018 is at US $53,190, and its GNI measured against PPP sits at US $49,930 as of 2018. The HDI, on the other hand, as of 2017 is at 0.939, so they are ranked at third place in the world, so it's just one position down from Switzerland. Even though the economic and human development concepts are both very important to consider, an Australian firm looking to establish themselves into Switzerland would find that human development is way more significant. This is because by looking at Switzerland's human development score, we can see that they have a high level of educational attainment, standards, and cost of living, which are relatively similar to Australia. And considering since Australia is ranked third in the world, for their human development, they will be more interested in a country that has a high human development score as well. So thank you so much for listening. I will now pass on to Tess to talk about the cultural similarities and differences between Australia and Switzerland.
Thanks, Jess. Hi, I'm Tess from Andy's research group, and I'm going to assess the cultural distance between Switzerland and Australia. Culture is defined as being a shared set of values which separate one group of people from another. Switzerland, due to being landlocked with Germany, France, and Italy, is a diverse country when it comes to culture. It has inherited the language of these countries, and a small minority also speak Romanish. Due to Switzerland being split into 26 cantons, which all have their own judiciary and education systems, the Swiss culture is vastly different across the country. Swiss German and Swiss French generally follow their relative countries in terms of views and ideologies, and therefore have very different cultural interpretations. 64.9% of the population speak German, and 22.6% speak French. This has resulted in Hofstede's cultural dimensions obtaining vastly different results. The country scored 34 in power distance, driven by Swiss German, and 58 in uncertainty avoidance, similar to that of France. This therefore illustrates the different views of the nation. However, in the remaining dimensions, Switzerland's society was unanimous. Australia is largely diverse, with approximately 26% of the population being born in a different country. English is the language of the country. However, it can be seen that around 20% also speak a second language. Australia and Switzerland have very similar scores according to Hofstede's dimensions, scoring within 22 of each other in all but one aspect. Power distance and indulgence were the closest, scoring with only 2 and 5 respectively. This results in the culture of the countries being regarded as similar. The exception is long-term orientation, where Australia scored 21 and Switzerland scored 74. The dimension measures society's ability to maintain time-honoured traditions and norms while viewing societal changes with suspicion. The differences in scores result in Switzerland being able to change and adapt to cultural changes quickly and efficiently, whilst Australia would struggle in the aspect of cultural change. Another study by Ronan and Schenker explored cultural clusters, focusing on the dimensions of geography, language, and religion. These found that Australia was classed in the Anglo cluster, while Switzerland was in the Germanic cluster. However, this was not consistent over the case studies reviewed. Sciorta and Greenwood classed both countries as Anglo. This results in there being similarities between Australia and Switzerland in terms of culture. Although Hofstede's dimensions have been criticised, they still remain one of the most influential ways in which to score a country's culture. Ronan and Schenker, despite stating that the countries were predominantly found in different clusters, only mainly focused on 3 dimensions: geography, language, and religion. Therefore, when combined with Hofstede's study, it is able to be seen that Australia and Switzerland in the past had different cultures. However, due to Switzerland now beginning to teach English in schools, changing aspects of the cultural clusters, and with the similarities found in Hofstede's dimension, it can be concluded that the country's cultures are slowly and steadily becoming similar. Passing on to Nadine to talk about David Ricardo's theorem.
Thanks for that, Jess. Hey guys, I'm Nadine from Andy's research group, and today I'm here to talk about the industries that Australia and Switzerland specialise in using David Ricardo's theory of comparative advantage. Comparative advantage, as theorised by David Ricardo, introduces the idea that free trade should be in the best interest of all trading countries. This occurs through a country's specialisation in the production of goods that they are able to produce most efficiently and import the remaining goods that they produce less efficiently from other countries. In other words, a country that has a lower opportunity cost of a good has comparative advantage in the production of that good. So, countries with an abundance of natural resources will generally have a higher comparative advantage in products using those resources and therefore increasing efficiency. Comparative advantage is often measured using a metric known as revealed comparative advantage, the RCA, which simply measures how much more efficiently a country can produce and export a good compared to other countries. If the RCA value is greater than 1 in a particular industry, that indicates a country's comparative advantage in that industry. So the greater the number, the stronger the comparative advantage. Switzerland's highest RCA score as of 2017 is in miscellaneous manufactured articles, more specifically watches and clocks, which I'm sure you know of, with a value of 23.9. Switzerland is one of the biggest exporters of gold, thus being able to produce one of the world's most high-end watches. And in saying that, gold is the second highest RCA with a value of 11.6. Regarding chemical and related products, this industry has also proven to excel, with medicinal and pharmaceutical products placed at an RCA value of 8.5. This could perhaps be due to their emphasis on research and development in biotechnology. So, for Australian companies looking to internationalise, it would be inauspicious for firms to compete in those industries, especially the watch production. Because in contrast, Australian exports are mostly in specialised industries relating to natural resource endowments, land and capital, such as mining and agriculture. One of Australia's most specialised industries is in mineral fuels, with coal at an RCA value of 30.2. Much of Australia's increasing specialisation in mineral exports is due to a strong demand for Australian ores and minerals from the Asia-Pacific region, in particular China, driving the increase in mining exports. As of 2017, iron ores and concentrates currently lead with an RCA value of 39.7. Agricultural and food industries also proved to excel, with a value of 17.7 in barley unmilled. Thanks for listening, guys. Gonna pass it back to Gracie now to finish our conclusion.
So now that we've taken you through the business side of Switzerland, it's time to recap what we've learned. Firstly, we now know that Switzerland has been deemed the globalisation champion and has been able to prosper in the fast-paced globalised world that we do business in today. Through this, Switzerland has maintained a high level of living and a booming economy. We also know that Switzerland's highest RCA score of 2017 was 23.9 for the infamous industry of watches and clocks. So, from the information we've shared with you today, we'll leave you with the conclusion that Switzerland has a strong economic system, political stability, and has fostered close ties with nations around the world, all of which make it an attractive business location. From all of us here at Andy's Researchers, we hope this video on Switzerland will allow you to make more informed business decisions.